Today's date is December 27th, which means 2023 is basically over. 2023 was a pretty good year for cars, I think. And if you haven't been caught up to every single auto show and event that's happened this year, this is where you want to be. I'm going to be going over every single brand new car or significantly changed car that was unveiled during all the auto shows, all the big auto shows this year, so you don't have to go read a million articles about every single car, and you'll just have some at least basic knowledge about every car that was unveiled this year and what to expect in case you want to go look at any of these cars in particular for yourself. I'm going to try not to make this as long as possible. I have my laptop here with every single car. My list says 150 new cars as well as 16 extra cars. This is every car. Jesus. This is every new car from every auto show of 2023. Couple of caveats before we get started. I live in the US, so every number you're going to hear is going to be either pounds or imperial horsepower. I did my best to convert a lot of numbers. If there is a number that is kilograms, I might have put it in here. Being that I am in the US and this is every car show from around the world, there are going to be a couple cars here that I didn't get that many details or really any details about, and a lot of them are probably Chinese cars. Sorry. And just so we're clear, this is every new car. However, there are a couple things in here that aren't necessarily newly unveiled for this year, but I added them because they were interesting or I could talk about them. So let's get started. This may be a long video. Also, somewhere else around here, I'll add a note for whichever car show I'm currently talking about, so you're not confused where X car was unveiled. So let's do it. Starting off with CES this year, which was January 5th through January 8th. A couple cars here. There was the BMW i Vision D. This is basically a sedan that's meant to show off the future styling of the BMW 3 Series. It was shown with these very odd color-changing panels and a very radical design, which I am not really that much of a fan of, but c'est la vie. Next is the Sony/Honda Afeela concept. Yes, Sony as in PlayStation Sony. Sony's been teasing us with a concept car for a couple years now, and this is probably the closest to production a Sony car would actually be thus far. And it looks okay. It kind of just looks like a regular car, which I think is probably in Sony's best interest. Next is the Ram 1500 Revolution concept, which is a battery electric truck, and I have a little asterisk on my notes here because this will be showing up later. And finally for CES, the first of the flying cars that was unveiled this year, the Oscar A5. Flying cars or flying cars seem to be a theme this year of people trying to pitch that a flying car is still coming, and that flying but also being able to drive with the same vehicle is a way forward, which I'm iffy on. Next up is Tokyo Auto Salon. We have four cars that were unveiled here. The first one is a one hydrogen and one electric AE86 Toyota. So basically, Toyota brought two AE86s, one that's hydrogen powered, one that's electric powered, essentially just as a letter to all the enthusiasts saying, don't worry, we haven't forgot about you. We're going to keep making enthusiast stuff, no matter if it's electric or if it's hydrogen or whatever fuel source, we got you covered. Next is the 2024 Subaru Impreza RS. Couple notes about these cars going forward. Since they've been announced, there have been details that have come out about them since in the car reviews and such, so wherever I can, I'll try and incorporate those as well. So this is basically the regular Subaru Impreza with a slight bump in power to 182 horsepower. It has a CVT transmission, and it's basically an appearance package. This is kind of just a revival of the RS name from back in the day, but it's kind of odd that they chose this to unveil it with. And lastly, for Tokyo Auto Salon is the 2024 Nissan GTR Nismo. This is basically the same GTR as we've known for the last, I don't know, how long has it been? Decade plus. 600 horsepower, which is unchanged from the previous years, and new styling. So just a light update. Next up is the Chicago Auto Show, which took place, I don't know if I mentioned, the Tokyo Auto Salon was January 12th through the 15th. I'll try my best to keep up with all these notes, but it's not really important in the grand scheme of things. Next up was the Chicago Auto Show, which is February 10th through the 19th. Two new cars shown here. The Corvette E-Ray, which is the Corvette C8, but with a motor in the front to make it all-wheel drive. Which also means that it is a hybrid. The interesting part about this is that they have it so that you can start it up in quiet mode and leave your neighborhood, not wake your neighbors up with a V8, but you can't change back to the EV mode while you're driving. You have to turn the car off and turn it back on again in this EV mode, and once you leave the EV mode by pushing the pedal too much, you can't go back into it. Another funny note is that Chevrolet claimed that the Corvette E-Ray is the most complicated car on sale today, which, considering all the actual EVs and other cars on sale, I don't know. The second one is the new Toyota Highlander, just a bit of a refresh, nothing too special. Next is the New York Auto Show, which was April 7th through the 16th. So remember that Ram Revolution I mentioned a minute ago? They brought it back and they showed the production version, which is a little more tame in styling. It doesn't really look like a Ram, but I don't know, it's an electric Ram. What do you want? Next car is the Kia EV9 production version. This is basically the replacement for the Telluride, but all electric. It looks pretty cool. I think it's a nice update to the Telluride. It's kind of just the next evolution of it, but electric. Next is the new Chevy Equinox, another just update, but electric, new styling, you get the picture. And lastly was the Genesis GV80 Coupe concept. The funny thing is this shows up later on the list as well, but it's basically unchanged from the concept form. They kind of just showed it off as being production ready, so it's not really that big of a deal. It's a coupe SUV. It's not really that big. Next up is Auto Shanghai, which went from April 18th to the 27th. This is where my note about Chinese cars is going to come into play, because I got a couple notes about some of these cars, but not that many. First one is a company called Yangwang. They're owned by BYD, Build Your Dreams, and they showed off two cars, the U8, which is an SUV, and the U9, which is a supercar kind of thing. It has 1,200 horsepower, quoted as 700 kilometers or 434 miles of range, and will most likely only be sold in China, so whatever. Next up is Hi-Fi. They announced that the Hi-Fi Y, Z, and X, which are currently sold in China, are being planned to be sold in Europe. You may have seen a couple Carwell videos about the Hi-Fi Z. It looks interesting. It's very eccentric. Next up is the Lexus LM minivan. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a Lexus minivan. Kind of the same as the Toyota Alphard, but it's a Lexus. Next is the Mercedes Maybach EQS SUV. This is the Maybach version of the EQS SUV. So expect better ride quality, better sound insulation, all the gizmos, but it's just a Mercedes EQS at the end of the day. Next is the Neo ES6 and ET7. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're both either one is a crossover and one's a sedan, or they're both sedans, or they're both crossovers. I don't really remember. I had pictures of these, but Google just deleted them, so thanks Google. Next up is the Polestar 4. This is a new crossover from Polestar. They're kind of filling out their line because they started with 1 and then they went to 2. No, didn't they go to 3? They went to 3 and now they're doing 4. 2 is coming. Why'd you guys do this? Next is the Smart #3, which is a new smart car. It's fully electric. It's kind of like a crossover, small SUV kind of thing. Funny enough, they actually also have a Brabus version of this vehicle, which if you also, again, watch Carwow, you've seen a couple times. They've drag raced it against a couple things. It has 422 horsepower and does 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.7 seconds. So it's kind of funny to see this thing beat very unexpected vehicles in a drag race. Next up, Toyota showed 2 new China exclusive BZ models. So here in the US, we currently get the BZ4X. They showed off the BZ Sport crossover concept and the BZ Flex Space concept. So 2 crossovers. Next is the Volkswagen ID.7. This is going to be an electric sedan. It's kind of the same form factor as the Toyota Crown that just came out, the new Toyota Crown in the States that we get. It's kind of a bigger, kind of lifted sedan. It's a very interesting form factor. I think a lot of companies are going to follow suit with making these like lifted sedans. I don't know why, but next is the XPeng G6. I should have put a note here. I'm not really sure what kind of, I want to say it's a sedan or maybe a crossover, but I'll have pictures for all of these, so it doesn't really matter what I say. And lastly is a new car from a new premium brand owned by Geely called Zeekr, and they have a car called the X. It's kind of like a crossover hatchback looking thing, electric. Pretty much every single Chinese car is electric. A new Chinese car is electric because that's their goal, full electricity. Next up is the Concorde d'Elegance Ville d'Este, which went from May 19th to the 21st. 2 cars here, both BMWs. The 3.0 CSL was shown to the public, or at least it was shown for the first time in steel. So this is essentially an M3 with a body kit. Or I guess you could say an M4 with a body kit. It has 345 horsepower, 249 pound-feet of torque, and it has a 6-speed manual, and I'm pretty sure this thing is like $300,000, so do with that what you will. The second one is the Z4 Concept Touring Coupe, which is one of the most beautiful cars of the year. It goes to show that BMW does not know what they're doing because they made this concept and didn't expect anyone to like it and didn't expect it to light the internet on fire when they showed it off. And that it subsequently did so, and now they're like, well, we didn't mean to make it, and this wasn't meant to go into production, so what do we do now? And now they may make it, they may not. I think they should, but I think they should do a lot of things that they're not doing. Next up, this is a big one. Goodwood Festival of Speed, which went from July 13th through the 16th. Get ready. First up is the AIM EV Sport 01. It's kind of a small EV. Think of like Alpine A110 looking car. 483 horsepower. It's electric. And 3.1 seconds 0 to 60. There's going to be a lot of electric cars on this list, in case you didn't think so. Next up, funny enough, from Alpine. They showed off the A110R, which is basically just the upgraded version of the A110, which we don't get here, which we should. I really wish we did. And then they showed off the A290. I'm pretty sure that symbol is a beta. It's an EV hatchback. It's smaller than the Ioniq 5, but bigger than the Honda E. It's a concept, so I don't know if they'll actually make it, and if they do, we're not going to get it here, which sucks. Next up is the Aston Martin Valor, or Valor. I think it's Valor properly, but for us Americans, it's going to be Valor because there's a U in it. This is based on the Victor. So the Victor was a one-off commission from Aston Martin. It was based on the Valkyrie platform. Not Valkyrie. Based on the Vulcan platform. And people loved it so much that I don't remember which way it went. It was like either the owner worked with Aston Martin or Aston Martin requested that they make more of this car. So they are now basing it on the DBS. It has 705 horsepower from a naturally aspirated V12 with a 6-speed manual. Hell yeah. It looks damn cool. I just hope to see one day. It looks basically identical to the Victor with just some minor tweaks here and there, but it's just so cool. Next up, 2 cars from Bentley. One being the Bentley Batour, which is a kind of a Continental with a body kit. It's a 730 horsepower 6-liter W12 with all-wheel drive and an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. And then they have the Speed 6 continuation series. I don't know what the deal is here. It's kind of, the joke is that they found extra parts in the factory and they're making more Bentley Speed 6s. I don't know if they're fully new construction or what. I assume most of it is new construction, but yeah, if you want a Bentley Speed 6, now you can get one. Next, BMW brought the new 5 Series. I don't remember exactly which one they brought to Goodwood and were running up and down the hill, but it looks interesting. There's been reviews out of this car already now, and it's a 5 Series. It's kind of just, it's not too good looking in my opinion. Next up, this is what I was mentioning about not necessarily a new unveiling for this year, but Bugatti brought the Bolide to Goodwood and was running it up the hill. This thing is awesome. They're gonna make, I don't remember how many they're gonna make. They're making a very limited amount of them. It has 1,578 horsepower and a dry weight, which means no fluids. Basically, I would be 98 pounds if you drained out all my blood and spinal fluid and all that good stuff, of 1,450 kilograms, which I didn't write down the pounds, but that's not heavy considering it still has the W16 motor in it. Photos were released of the Bolide with no body panels on it, just the chassis and the engine and the wheels, and it looks hilarious. It would be the coolest go-kart that a billionaire could ever buy. Next up, 2 cars from Caterham. One being the Caterham EV7. So basically they're Caterham 7 that they already do, but electrified. So 240 horsepower. It'll weigh nothing. So 240 horsepower is more than enough. And then the Project V or 5, which is a whole new concept from Caterham. Closed cockpit car, 268 horsepower electric, 2,623 pounds roundabout. And they're basically just wanting to make the best driving electric coupe they can. Yeah, a lot of these like really good driving EVs upcoming soon. Next up, I'll add a note here. A couple of these cars I've actually seen in person since they've been unveiled. I'll add pictures of them just to not have the trouble of going on the internet and finding them. But this one I saw in person, the Eccentrica Diablo. So this is a resto-modded Lamborghini Diablo, and it looks amazing. 550 horsepower, 442 pound-feet of torque, and a 6-speed manual. And it looks the shit. Next up, Ford brought 3 cars to the Goodwood Festival of Speed. They brought the new Explorer EV, which weirdly enough, apparently we're not getting in the United States. Even though we get the Explorer currently, they're just expanding it. They're only selling it to Europe or something like that. I don't know why. I don't know why Ford, an American company, wants to take cars away from Americans like this. Not like I really, I'm like missing out on the Explorer EV, but they brought the Ford Mustang Mach-E Rally, which I guess follows the trend of the Porsche, the Carrera, the 911 Dakar, and the Lamborghini Huracan Storado. It's a lifted, knobbly tire Mach-E, if you want. They've brought this to a couple shows, and it'll be interesting if they actually make it. I think that would be kind of cool, actually. And then they brought the Mustang Dark Horse. So this you've probably seen already by now. 500 horsepower, 418 pound-feet of torque. You can have a 10-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual. And I don't understand why people don't like the look of this car. I think it looks great. I think it looks awesome. And people seem to not like it. I don't know why. It looks fine. It looks good. Next up, a funny car from Ferrari. This is the KC23. KC being the initials of the person who commissioned it, and 23 being the year. It's a one-off car. I think it's based on the 488 or the F8 like GTE car, but road legal. It has a 3.9 liter V8 making 600 horsepower and 518 pound-feet of torque. It has these funny flaps on the side that move around, and I guess it's meant to direct air into the engine when it needs to, and when it doesn't, it just seals off and you have a completely clean side. It looks very cool, but they're only making one, so whatever. Next up is the Genesis GV80 Coupe concept again. Apparently this one is more close to production, although it's the exact same car basically. They're running it up the hill. It looks okay. And then they also show the Genesis X convertible. This is a convertible version of the Genesis X concept that they've already shown. Will they make anything like this? Maybe, maybe not. I think it would be cool if they did, but I really don't know if they will. Next up is, I guess, 3 cars from Hyundai. The Ioniq 5N was unveiled at Goodwood, a car which I really want. It's an EV, as the Ioniq 5 is. It has 641 horsepower. It has a simulated transmission, meaning you can pull paddles and actually shift gears, and it'll hit a once you get to a certain RPM, it'll like hit basically just a programmed in fuel cutoff, which is awesome. I think more people should be doing this if they're looking for like an enthusiast kind of electric car. The N Drift Analyzer, which is basically a drift mode, and then another cool thing you can do with it is while you're driving, I'm pretty sure while you're just in this mode, you pull both paddles and you let go, and it'll do a simulated clutch kick so you can drift. It's really cool. I really think it's awesome. Hyundai is doing pretty good things, I think, in terms of moving the EV forward. They showed off 2 more cars. One, they brought the Vision 74, which is that hydrogen electric concept, and there's been rumors that they're actually going to make them, and I really hope that they actually make more than 70 of them, because if they don't, I'm going to be very sad. And then they brought the RN22E, which is based on the Ioniq 6, I think, and they crashed it. So I don't know what happened. Maybe the brakes failed or something. Maybe the guy was going too fast for the corner, but it crashed and now it's gone. And so we'll see if they actually remake it, or if they actually got enough data from it to make it into a full production car. We'll see. But I really hope that Hyundai does well with this performance EV angle, because I personally am very excited to see what they do with it. I hate this name. Next up is the Ineos Grenadier Quartermaster. It's a Range Rover made by a gas company. Literally a gas company. I saw this at a Cars and Coffee event. It looks okay. It's just a Range Rover, but honestly cheaper looking, and it's probably not cheaper, although I don't know, maybe it will be. Next up. Oh, I like this one. Koenigsegg brought the Gemera to the Goodwood Festival of Speed. Originally, it was shown with a 3-cylinder motor with 3 electric motors, totaling 1,700 horsepower, and everyone freaked out because the huge doors, 4-seater, it's a family hypercar. Now, they brought the production version to Goodwood. So this car, you can still have it with the TFG, the Tiny Friendly Giant 3-cylinder, making 600 horsepower, and then a new dark matter motor, which they've developed, which makes 800 horsepower, which means a total of 1,400, which is less than the 1,700 they originally quoted. However, you can also have it with the Jesko V8 in it, also paired with a dark matter motor, which means you can have 800 horsepower from the dark matter motor, and then you can have 1,500 from the V8, totaling 2,300 horsepower in this 4-seat sedan. This will be absolutely hilarious if they actually make it like this. It will be the greatest. It'll be the greatest family car ever made, like hands down, no question. Koenigsegg is just the best. Next up, 3 cars from Lamborghini. One of them being a LMDH prototype car in the to compete in the hypercar and grand touring prototype class, the SC63. This last year's Le Mans was actually a very fun race to watch, especially with the Garage 56 car running around. That thing was awesome. We'll see how Lamborghini does in this new actually like Le Mans racing with a prototype kind of thing. Next up, they unveiled the Revuelto, which is their new, basically the Aventador replacement. It has an 814 horsepower, 535 pound-foot of torque V12, naturally aspirated, 3 electric motors, 2 at 148 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, and one at 148 horsepower and 111 pound-feet of torque, totaling to 1,001 horsepower and 730 foot-pounds of torque. There's already reviews and stuff going around about this car, and it seems to be a rather quick vehicle, and it seems to be a lot more agile than the Aventador as well, so that thing is going to be very, very cool. And then Lamborghini also brought the Huracan Sterrato, and it was running around, and it was very cool. I actually don't remember if this was unveiled this year or not. I think it might have been unveiled last year, but it's still cool to see it running around along with the 911 Dakar now. This off-road supercar thing is awesome. I love it. McLaren brought 2 cars to the Festival Speed, one being the new 750S. This is the new 720 basically. It has 740 horsepower, 590 pound-foot of torque, and it weighs just 3,062 pounds, which makes it 66 pounds lighter than the 720, which isn't a lot, but it seems to have made a pretty good difference, as reviews have said that this thing is quite nice to drive. McLaren also brought the McLaren Solus GT, which is awesome. If you don't know, this is based on a McLaren Vision Gran Turismo car, so a car that was in a video game. That car in the video game had a V8, and I guess they liked that design so much that they said, we're going to make it. But we're going to give it a 892 horsepower, naturally aspirated 5.2 liter V10 with a 10,000 RPM redline. This thing is awesome, and it sounded awesome, and it also won the Goodwood, the shootout at Goodwood. So there you go. It only won because the McMurtry Spearling didn't participate. There was only a demo car. Speaking of the McMurtry Spearling, that's the next car. McMurtry, the people who brought the hilarious single-seater fan car last year and destroyed the Goodwood hill climb record, brought their new car, the Spearling Pure, which is a road legal version with 1,000 horsepower. It weighs less than 1,000 pounds, and it will do 190 horsepower. But get this, it can pull, as McMurtry states, 3 G's of cornering force, which is hilarious.
You're getting out the back, don't worry,
I can't imagine anyone being able to drive this on the road unless you're just a full-on F1 driver. It's awesome. Mini showed the Aceman concept, which it's okay. I don't know. There's another car that basically is the same design later on the list. MG brought 3 cars. The MG MG4 X-Power, the MG EX4 concept, and the MG Cyberster. MG4 X-Power is a hatchback looking thing, all electric, I'm pretty sure. The MG EX4 concept is a like an electric race car. I'm pretty sure these are all electric. And then the Cyberster is a 536 horsepower EV convertible. However, it weighs 4,376 pounds, which is not light. It'll be interesting to see what this actually does. Porsche showed off 2 cars. The 718 Spider RS, so basically the GT4 RS, but with no roof, which means that the air intakes that are on the side of the car on the GT4 RS are now just like a couple inches behind you with no roof, meaning intake noise for days. And then they showed off the Mission X, which is a new hypercar that they're working on. I suspect that this will 100% be a production vehicle. They haven't released that many numbers about it, but they say it'll have a 1-to-1 power ratio, and they're targeting a world record on the Nürburgring. My guess is probably they're going to be using Rimac powertrain, as they just invested quite a heavy sum into Rimac, or I should say Rimac, and so they're probably going to use that technology to destroy the Nürburgring. Next up, Renault showed off the R5 Turbo 3E, which is a concept, probably won't ever exist, but it's a Renault R5, but it's electric, and they were sliding this thing around. It looked hilarious. It has 380 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque, and will do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. And they'll probably never make it, even though they probably should. Next up, this is a long category, is the Singer DLS Turbo Study, which is, it's so nice. It's so beautiful. It's basically, so Singer now has done a turbo car with this. It's a 700 horsepower, 3.8 liter flat six, all carbon body panels, and an extremely wide track in the rear. It is bonkers how wide this thing is in the rear. You see pictures of it from the front, and it looks crazy. It's so staggered, and yeah, that'll be a hilarious car that I will probably never see. And lastly, a car from the little car company called the Tamiya Wild One Max. Now, if anyone built model cars as a kid, you might be thinking, Tamiya, that sounds familiar. Yes, because Tamiya is model cars and remote control cars. But this company, the little car company, which has made like scaled down versions of cars like the I think the Bugatti Type 38 or whatever it's called, and like a couple other things like that, scaled down versions. Well, now they've taken a remote control car and made it like big with 2 seats. It weighs around 1,100 pounds. It has 38 horsepower from an electric motor, and it can be registered for road use. In the UK, it can be registered as a quadricycle, so it'll basically qualify the same way as the Citroen Ami. So that's very cool. All right, if you need a break, take a break. I certainly need a break. All right, next up is Monterey Car Week, which went from August 13th through the 20th. Lots of cool cars here. First up is Pininfarina. They brought 2 cars, the B95 Barchetta, which is essentially just the Batista, but with no roof, and 1900 horsepower, more than likely the Rimac powertrain, and it weighs 4,850 pounds. No roof with Rimac performance will be hilarious. And then they also showed off the Pura Vision, I guess, concept, which is kind of more or less a design study. It is an SUV with weird like gull wing glass panels on the top, so that's interesting. Next up, you probably saw this and thought either that it was a good idea or that you hated it. The Lamborghini Lanzador concept. No details about this. It's a 4-door sedan crossover looking kind of thing, fully electric, and round about 1,341 horsepower. I think it's kind of odd, but I mean, if Lamborghini's gonna have fun with the electric era, then why not, right? Next up, Lotus. So Lotus brought a car called the Type 66, which is basically a Can-Am car. It is hilarious. It has 8 trumpets coming out the rear for intake runners, which is hilarious. It'll make around 819 horsepower, 550 pounds-feet of torque. It'll have a peak downforce figure of 1,764 pounds, which Lotus says is a higher figure than the car's weight, which this thing will be hilarious. They're only going to make a couple of them, and they're probably going to be very expensive, and they're only track toys, but it's still awesome. Next up is the Maserati MC Extrema. So basically, when the MC20 came out, people were voicing interest for a track version, but they said the MC20 is not for that. So that's what this is for. This is built on the MC20, same type of engine, making 724 horsepower, 538 pound-feet of torque, and it weighs around 3,150 pounds. That's with fluids and everything, and they'll make 62 of them. It looks radical. I think it'll be very interesting. I think it's a good choice that they chose to make a different car than the MC20 rather than just try and make the MC20 a track car. Next up is the new Mercedes AMG GT. So this was shown off this actually was shown at Goodwood, but it had camouflage on it. This is the first time we've seen it without camouflage. The GT55 version will have 469 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque from the same 4-liter V8 as they've been using for the last couple of years. And the GT63 version will make 577 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. And it has rear seats which is interesting. I don't think they really needed to do that, although it seems like Mercedes is doing some weird things. I don't know, but it looks cool. Next up, Zenvo brought 3 cars, 2 of which I actually saw at the LA Auto Show, so I'll put pictures here of that. The first one being the TSR GT. This is basically a updated version of the car they've already been selling, with a 5.8 liter twin supercharged V8 making 1,360 horsepower. Very nice. But the other 2 are the Aurora twins, the Aurora Tur and the Aurora Agile. This will be a very interesting vehicle. So the Tur model is the one for road use. This will have a 6.6 liter quad turbo V12 making 1,250 horsepower and 3 electric motors making a total of 600 horsepower, making 1,850 horsepower peak output for this car, which is crazy. And then the Agile is the same V12, 6.6 liter quad turbo with the same 1,250 horsepower, but only 1 electric motor making 200 horsepower, totaling to 1,450 horsepower and 1,032 pound-feet of torque for track use only. And these will be amazing to listen to going around the track. I can't wait to hear what these sound like. Acura showed off a new ZDX electric SUV, whatever. Hennessy brought the Venom F5 Revolution Roadster. Barely anyone has seen the F5 already, and they also revealed the Revolution a little while ago, closed top version. But now they're unveiling the Roadster version, same 1,817 horsepower, 6.6 liter twin turbo V8, and they're only going to make 12 of them. So expect to never see them. And then Jaguar brought 2 very interesting cars in the same vein as Bentley did for the Festival of Speed. First one being the C-Type Revival and the next being the D-Type Revival. So essentially, if you want a Jaguar C-Type or a Jaguar D-Type, I don't know what they did. Maybe they found more parts in their factory. Maybe they're making brand new parts, but you can get a C-Type or D-Type brand new from Jaguar if you want. Next up is the IAA Mobility Munich show, which went from September 5th through the 10th. First car being the BMW Neue Klasse. So basically this is the iVision D from earlier, but it's a closer version to production, meaning that more than likely the new 3 Series is going to look something very close to this. It's interesting. The color changing panels are gone on this concept. The interior is more conventional, although it's not really there yet. I don't know, it'll be odd to see this running around. But the other BMW vehicle that was there is the i7 Protection. So in case you get shot at a lot, you can get this. It weighs around 4,900 kilograms, 10,800 pounds. It has the same 536 horsepower, meaning it'll do 0 to 60 in 9 seconds flat. Although BMW says you can go full acceleration up to 50 miles an hour without the tires going flat. So yeah, for those of you that get shot at. Next up, BMW brought the new Cooper EV and the Countryman EV. Now, I have some opinions on this as I drive a Mini, and I think that this new Cooper is an interesting step. They minimized the British flagness of the taillights. They're now triangular. And it's overall much cleaner design, but it's kind of just looking. And the new Countryman is also okay looking, I guess. I don't know. Audi brought the Q6 e-tron in camouflage, although we can pretty much tell what the Q6 looks like now. It's basically the replacement. I'm pretty sure it's the replacement for the e-tron that they already have, the SUV one. So Mercedes-Benz brought 2 new cars, the E-Class All-Terrain and the CLA concept, which the CLA concept looks very interesting. Lots and lots and lots of Mercedes logos on this one. Very smooth design, electric. Although I think I saw something that this has the potential for an ICE engine as well, which I guess, like, why go halfway? Just go all the way for EV or all the way for ICE. Yeah, it looks cool, I guess, for a CLA. Oh, I'm getting tired. Porsche brought 2 cars. Firstly, the Cayenne Turbo E-Hybrid. So updated version of the Cayenne, turbo, e-hybrid technology, so it's a hybrid. And then the 911 ST. This thing is awesome. So basically, it's a GT3 RS with all the fixings of the 3RS, so new suspension, all the new stuff. But it's the lightest 911 of the range at 3,056 pounds. It has a 6-speed manual transmission, an 8% shortened gear ratio, and they removed 20 plus pounds from the clutch, and it has a lightened flywheel, meaning that this will be the best driving 911 in a long time, and I can't wait to see them. It'll be very cool to see. Tesla showed off the Model 3, the updated Model 3. I guess it's codename or whatever, the Highland. It's an interesting upgrade of design, and I don't remember if they had the 4680 cells or not, but yeah, that's all I'm going to say about Tesla. Moving on. Lotus brought the Emeya, which is like the Elytra, an electric car. It's a sedan this time. The top trim one will make 905 horsepower, but it'll weigh 5,655 pounds. Colin Chapman is rolling in his grave with the Simplify and Add Lightness saying. God, I'm getting tired. Volkswagen brought 2 cars, the updated Passat and the ID GTI concept. So the GTI is dead. Very sad. I'm very upset about it. But this is going to be an electric version, still front-wheel drive. It's smaller than the current GTI, think Polo size, but there's no word on whether or not it'll come to the US market, which is very sad. I very much hope we at least get some kind of fun hatchback from Volkswagen. We already don't get the base Golf anymore. We only get the GTI and the R, and I never see them because they're not great looking and they have all these capacitive dumb buttons and whatever. Moving on. This car was very hard to look up details for. It's called the Avatar 1-2. It's a Chinese, I think this one's a sedan. It kind of looks like a Taycan in the rear, a Porsche Taycan. Very hard to look it up. Why'd you pick such a hard name? Next up, 2 cars from the company BYD, the Dolphin and the Seal U. Yeah, more Chinese. I think these are both like crossovers or like hatchback kind of things. Both electric. Cupra brought 2 electric cars, the Dark Rebel concept and the Tavascan. The Dark Rebel is something very cool looking, meaning that it'll never go into production. And the Tavascan is a electric crossover. Renault brought a new version of the Scenic. Electric, I'm pretty sure. And then Toyota debuted the Century SUV. So this is the Toyota Century, but it's an SUV. I don't really know what else you need to say about it. Weirdly, it's only going to be sold in Japan, which I say weirdly because in the US, we love SUVs, or I don't, but we as a country love SUVs. And so I don't know why they wouldn't sell this here and make just a bunch more money. 4 doors, obviously. You can get optional rear sliding doors. And they also showed off a convertible version, which they might make if there's enough interest in it, which okay, why not? Next up is the Detroit Auto Show, which went from September 13th to the 24th. First thing being Ford. They brought the Mustang GTD, which is another car I saw at the LA Auto Show. I put pictures here of it. The GTD is based on the GTD race car, and it's road legal, which is awesome. It has a 5.2 liter supercharged V8, making 800 horsepower with a 8-speed dual clutch transmission. Interesting thing about this, on the website, they have a button at the very bottom of the screen that says inquire about applying, which means that this seems to be some Ford GT type of deal, the new GT, where you have to apply and tell them, I'm going to drive it, I'm going to do this and that with it. They're not just going to sell it to anyone, which is very good. In my opinion, I think more companies should do this in order to get people actually driving their cars and not just holding them in a collection forever. Another flying car was shown. I actually didn't write down the name. I just wrote down Flying Car 2 Electric Boogaloo. So the GMC Hummer EV SUV was shown. I've actually seen this in real life. It's the same thing. as the pickup truck. It's just that it has a closed rear, and it looks okay. It looks like a Hummer. And they also showed the new Fiat 500. And very interesting news about this. Fiat will no longer be selling gray as a option, which means you can only get colorful colors, which I think is very cool. We have enough gray anonymous cars on the road. I think that's a really cool idea for Fiat to do that. Next up is the Texas Auto Show / the State Fair of Texas. I don't know why they couldn't just get their own auto show, but I guess, Texas. Which went from September 29th through October 22nd, the long show. I think most of that's probably the State Fair. Firstly, they showed off the Kia EV9 production version again. Again, looks pretty cool. They showed off the new Chevy Colorado, Silverado, Traverse, Tahoe. Why did I write Silverado twice? Yeah, Colorado, Silverado, Traverse, and Tahoe. Ford brought the new F-150 as well as the new Ranger. And Toyota brought the new Tacoma as well as the new Tundra. And yeah, I couldn't expect anything less from Texas. Next up is the Geneva International Motor Show in Qatar, which happened from October 5th through the 14th. Firstly, the Audi SQ8 was shown, new 8 Series SUV from Audi, but the S version, so faster one. I'm pretty sure this is a Chinese company, Chery. They showed off the Tiggo 8 and Tiggo 7. I think these are both like SUV crossover kind of things. Next one is a company called Entop. The model is the Mada 9. This is an Afghan car, so Afghanistan. Not a lot of details about it. All that's really out there is that it'll be powered by a mid-mounted 1.8 liter 4-cylinder from the Toyota Corolla. So, interesting. Next one is the Amoda 5. I'll find a picture. I don't remember what the actual car was. I don't know why I wrote it like that. Next one is the Lazarus LMV 496, which is not a flying car, but a flying motorcycle. So can't imagine that's extremely safe. Next up is the Mercedes-Benz GLC 63S Coupe E Performance. And all I'm going to say is it has a 4-cylinder. And moving on. Next one is the Delage D12. Delage is actually a rather old name, but they're being brought back. This car looks like a damn F1 car. It has a 7.6 liter V12 with EV assistance, totaling 1,100 horsepower, and they're going to make 30. It looks pretty cool. Next, Mini brought the Countryman JCW All 4. I think this actually looks pretty cool. It's a little big for a Mini, but I think it looks alright. It makes 312 horsepower from the same 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder and 295 pounds-feet of torque, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds. And lastly for that show is the Kia EV5 concept. And then, why did I write the EV9 production version so many times? Yeah, they showed the EV9 production version again, so there you go. Next one is the Orange County Auto Show in California. Here they showed the Lexus GX, the new GX, which I think looks very cool, very boxy, very kind of Defender-y. No notes, very cool looking car. Next up is the Tokyo Motor Show from October 26th to November 5th. First one being the brand new BMW X2. All I think about when I see this is that they ran an ad where they went into Photoshop with a regular X2 and put M parts on it. No. Next, Daihatsu showed 4 cars actually. The Mimo, the Ospano, the Uniform, and the Vision Copen. The Vision Copen is basically a updated version of the Copen, and I think it looks pretty cool. I don't remember if these are all EV or not. They probably will be, but they're all Daihatsus and they're all very small and very cute looking. Next from Honda, 3 cars. The CI MEV and the Sistania C, and the Prelude, the new Prelude. So this one I also saw at the LA Auto Show. This will have hybrid power. The estimates are around $31,000 to $36,000. My guess is that this will actually come out. It seems that it will come out eventually, probably around 2026. They just stopped doing the Civic Coupe, and so more than likely I could see this replacing the Civic Coupe, and I think that would be very good. Why not? New Honda Prelude, right? That'd be pretty cool. Next up from Lexus is the LF-ZC and the LF-ZL, two like SUV crossover electric Lexuses. Mazda brought two cars, the facelifted MX-5, so not really that much changed at all, and the iconic SP. This thing is awesome. It's a concept for now, although it seems to be that they're aiming for some kind of production intent. It has a two-rotor rotary range extender connected to electric power. It'll make around 365 horsepower, and it'll weigh around 3,197 pounds. These are very specific numbers, so it does seem like they're kind of aiming for a production intent. And it's roughly the same size as an RX-7, so maybe we'll see a new RX-7. That would be very, very cool. Nissan brought a whole bunch of stuff. The Hyper Adventure, the Hyper Punk, the Hyper Tourer, the Hyper Urban, and the Hyper Force. All of these very out there concepts, although the Hyper Force seems to be a look at the new GTR. They're talking about very future looking things like a solid state battery, making around 1,341 horsepower, all-wheel drive of course. And it looks very interesting. It looks like if you just took a GTR and put it in Photoshop and exaggerated all the proportions. But yeah, cool looking. Next up from Subaru, they brought something called the Sports Mobility Concept, which is a very boxy, very stubby looking car. Very sporty looking, as the name would imply. It's reminded a lot of people of the old rally days from Subaru, and I hope that they make something similar to this. I imagine they probably won't make anything actually like this unless they're going for a whole design shift. But we'll see. Suzuki brought the EVX, the EWX, and then a fist-lifted Swift. Toyota brought three vehicles, the FT3E, the IMVO, the Land Cruiser SE, and the FTSE. This is being touted as the new Celica, or the new MR2, or whatever you want to call it. This thing looks very cool as well. The three highlights of the show are definitely the new Prelude, the Mazda Iconic SP, and this. Again, no, it's a concept for now, but it seems that they're going to be making something like this soon. 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds. And what tells you that they're probably going to make this is that Toyota has a target Nürburgring Nordschleife time in mind, although they won't say what it is. But the fact that they have a time in mind means that they want to make something like this, which is very, very, very cool. And lastly, from that show is the Yamaha Tricera. It's a 3-wheel concept like the Polaris Slingshot. It also has 3-wheel steering, so the rear wheel turns like this. It's very odd looking. Next up is SEMA, which went from October 31st to November 3rd. They showed off a couple interesting things. First one being the Toyota Tacoma X Runner. This is a concept that basically foreshadows a return to a sport truck, although we'll see if they actually do something like that. I don't know what the market actually is for that. Next from Ford, being SEMA, they brought a bunch of modified vehicles like a modified Bronco and Ranger. However, they're actually going to be selling these modifications as packages called ORV packages through their dealership. So if you want to remake the car you saw at SEMA, you can. And then they also brought a new Mustang with an FP800S Whipple supercharger kit, which you'll be able to get from the factory with a warranty. Hell yeah. Then the last show of the year, the Automobility LA / the LA Auto Show, which went from November 11th to November 26th. Lucid brought the Gravity. Finally, we have the Gravity. They're done chasing Tesla, and they're gonna just make cars to make money so they can make more cars to beat Tesla. I love it. They're quoting over 400 miles of range, over 800 horsepower, up to 7 seats, and a 0 to 60 of 3.5 seconds. Hell yeah. Good job, Lucid. Subaru brought the new 2025 Forester. Bit of a refresh. Kind of nice looking. Hyundai brought the new Santa Fe, which looks very cool, very boxy. I love the new Hyundai design language. It looks very, very cool. And then new Kia Sorento, again, new design language. I think it actually looks very nice. Toyota brought a new car called the Crown Signia, which is a kind of like a wagony crossover kind of car. Looks all right. And then as well as the new Camry, following styling cues from the new Prius. So the same kind of hoopy headlights. And then we also got the US specs for the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which I can't wait for that thing. It's going to be so cool. And that's it. That's every car shown at an auto show in 2023. Although there are still a couple more. There are cars that were shown on their own. They didn't have a specific event. They had like a press launch event. And I'll cover them here. Firstly being the Radford Type 62-2 Pikes Peak Edition, which also spawned the track edition of the 62-2. The Pikes Peak Edition has the same 3.5 liter V6, although it's been supercharged to make 700 horsepower, and it weighs only 1,898 pounds, which is very nice. It'll do 0 to 60 in 2.2, which is very funny. I'm pretty sure this is the one they also brought to Goodwood, although they didn't unveil it at Goodwood, which is why it wasn't in the Goodwood section. The track edition will weigh a little bit more, 2,160 pounds, and it'll have 600 horsepower. The Pikes Peak edition actually won its class in Pikes Peak this year, which is some pretty damn good marketing, if you ask me. Aston Martin unveiled the DB12, which has a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 with 671 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. Pretty nice. I think that they probably should have built the Valor or whatever on this platform, because the DBS platform made it look a little shorter. But yeah, I think this thing is also very cool. The Mercedes AMG C63S E-Performance, you've all heard it by now. I'll just run through it real quick. 4-cylinder turbo, 671 horsepower, 752 pound-feet of torque, which is hilarious. But it weighs 4,650 pounds, meaning that it weighs more than an S-Class, which is very sad. And I've heard rumors that they're going to bring the V8 back and that this was a mistake, but we'll see. It'll be very interesting if Mercedes actually backtracks on something like this, because this was a misstep in my opinion. Lucid showed off the Sapphire, which is faster than the Plaid. Thank you very much. It has 1,234 horsepower, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1,430 pound-feet of torque, and it'll do 0 to 60 on a non-prepped surface in 1.89 seconds, and the quarter mile in 8.95, and it's awesome. Jason Camisa has said that this is the best handling sedan in the world, and I'm inclined to believe him because of all the technology and stuff that Lucid have done. Very cool car. Tesla actually came out with the production Cybertruck. The numbers I have here are for the Cyber Beast, 845 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.6, and around 320 miles range, and that's all I'm gonna say, also I'll get pissed off. And then these are all cars that have been unveiled, or like shown, I guess, in some way, but not actually seen, and then later down the list are cars that have yet to be seen and are expected, that we've just heard rumors and things about. The Porsche Panamera, the new one, has been shown with a 2.9 liter V6 in the base trim with 348 horsepower and 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, so 4.3 because Porsche. The new Land Cruiser. So this shares some of the same styling cues as the new GX. Very boxy, very utilitarian looking. I think it looks pretty cool. Apparently they're aiming for a lower price than the previous Land Cruiser, as the last one was in the mid to high 80s. This is going to be closer to mid 50s, so more affordable to people. So you'll probably see more of them around, which is very nice. The Cadillac Celestiq, which is the basically just the sedan version of the I'll put it on screen. I forgot the name of it at the moment. The sedan version of the SUV that they are currently selling. The Mercedes-Benz CLE Coupe, which replaces the C-Class and E-Class coupes. I think since writing this, they've shown things for the 55 version, and I don't believe they've shown anything for a 63 version, although that is rumored to be coming. You can have it in a 255 horsepower 4-cylinder or a 375 horsepower inline 6. It looks nice. I think it's a good merger of the two, although I don't know if people Mercedes has so many cars by now, but I guess they found some justification to remove the C and E class coupes and just have it be one model. So I don't know, we'll see. And then these are rumors for now. So first rumor being the new BMW M5 Touring will be coming to the US. This is a big hope because it seems to be that Audi is doing all right with the A6 and RS6 here. Mercedes has been doing well, like decently well, with the E-Class wagon. So yeah, hopefully that would be cool to have a lineup of BMW, Audi, Mercedes for German wagons. Next is the Rivian R2S. This is going to be the Model Y competitor. Smaller car, expected to be around $40,000. They showed off an image of it under a cover, but they haven't given us any details at all yet. The Chevy Corvette ZR1/Zora. There's a little bit of a mix-up of what it will actually be called. This has been seen running on the Nürburgring, and it sounds like it has the LT6 5.5 liter V8 that's in the Z06, but it has twin turbos. And this is my speculation that it might actually also have the E-Rays motor in the front, giving it all-wheel drive, although I wouldn't be surprised if not. I think a 5.5 liter twin turbo V8 is probably enough for a Corvette as it is. It's expected to have around 1,000 horsepower total, which I think, you know, the C8 is a great car, and I think the Z06 is one of the better sounding cars on sale today. So yeah, that'll be very cool if we actually have twin turbos ZR1, which it seems like we will be getting. And last on the list here, very last thing, is the Porsche Macan and Cayenne EVs, as well as 911 hybrid models and Cayman hybrid/EV models. I follow someone on Instagram who has been posting pictures nonstop of all these cars, and I've seen a couple of videos of the Cayenne and Macan EVs, or maybe just the Macan EV. And they look all right. It's following the Taycan styling cues. The 911, I think, they're going to have to do something to keep the 911 around like this. And if it's going to be hybrid, all it's going to do is make it faster. And I mean, the Turbo S was already the fastest car in the world for a long time, with the exception of a Plaid. But with the hybrid assist, this thing is going to be an absolute monster. So that is it. We are done. No more. That is every car that was in every auto show of 2023. I am excited for what's to come. I think we're going to have a very interesting time seeing what the future brings with all these EV cars and EV regulations coming up. Of course, companies like Gordon Murray Automotive are doing cars still like the T50 and the T33, where because they're under a certain production amount, they're still able to make naturally aspirated high revving V12s. Things like the production Gamera as well as the Jesko coming out are very interesting. Yeah, I'll be very interested to see all the new developments of all the new cars and everything. I just hope that enthusiasts prevail on a lot of these companies and figure out ways to give us vehicles that we will enjoy as enthusiasts, and not just be relegated to finding the best EPA number or finding the best range on an electric car. I hope for some enthusiasm in the future. But anyway, this has probably been a very long video, and I'm very tired, so I'm going to go. Thank you very much for watching this video. Leave a like if you liked it. Please subscribe. I hope to be making more videos soon about things. I said in the last video that I don't keep meaning to make videos on new cars, but new cars are what's new and interesting. Two other new cars that were unveiled this year, the SF90XX and the Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale. I have videos on both of them and my thoughts, because I think the SF90XX shouldn't exist, and I think that or at least in its current form, and I think that the 33 Stradale is should make more for a lower price and just call it the Alfa Romeo 6C as they were going to initially. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and catch you guys in the next video. Peace.